I'd like to call to order the January 21st Brooklyn City School District Board of Education meeting. Mr. Huskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barczyk?
Here.
Ms. Bowen?
Here.
Mr. Singer?
Here.
Mr. Roper?
Here.
Mr. Slattery?
Can we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Glykoff for student achievement.
Yep, thank you, Mrs. Barczyk. This month we have our high school, and I believe Mr. Wingler and Mr. Hare are going to talk a little bit about some of the map testing that's happening at the high school.
Yeah, so we, this year, through Mrs. Kalish, the district has begun using a tool called map testing. Map testing is given 3 times a year. Three times a year, the fall, the winter, and the spring. This is significant. This is a significant test because it's distinctly different than the other data sources that we have in the past. So, OST testing in the spring is a proficiency test. It's a bar. It tells us how many of our students hit that bar. There's a couple downsides to that test. Number one, the data comes in June, which is very challenging to use that data for future planning, especially at the high school level where we move kids on to, if they're in algebra, for example, typically they're going to geometry and it's algebra data. The second piece is that it doesn't measure growth. The state test doesn't really measure growth. It doesn't tell us that little Billy came in here and grew here, but still didn't hit that bar the state says is proficient. Map testing is a test, and we're going to show you a couple pieces of data that we've used that tells us not only is a child achieving, but are they growing? And ultimately, as we've seen some examples already, there are kids who aren't quite where we want them to be, but have grown 200% in half a school year, meaning that compared to their peers, they're double ahead of pace of growth. So this test provides data for us relevant to where the child really is, not just the bar in May.
So the first thing, we have a couple different slides showing some of the different reports. So the first, this is one of the teachers in our building. And what you'll see here, along here, is this is clusters the students based on where their current scores are on the assessment. And what we're going to do in this presentation is we're going to take you kind of from the generic big picture of a whole class, and then we're going to take it down to where we will be a lot more specific, which I think highlights some of the importance of this and also why it can be so important to our staff and our students as they are working in achieving growth. So we start out with the whole class view, and then as you can see here, then we've broken it down into 4 different strands for this specific classroom. Now that would be different for reading and math, so we're using both tests to measure our students' growth. And as you can see, what it does is it then continues to divide students based on their scores, but breaks it up into our different strands that we have listed here, which allows teachers, especially when they're looking at what they're teaching in their classroom, to align with where their clusters are on their reports.
And sometimes even this big picture data is really nice, because this is Mr. Abramovich's pre-algebra class. And when Mr. Abramovich and I talked about this data, because we have at our department meetings for each subject, we went through this data and discussed how it can be used. You'll hear a teacher go, well, that makes sense. I haven't taught that yet. I'm not there yet. But then you'll hear a teacher say, you know what? I need to review statistics and probability, because we did it, and those numbers as a class aren't where I want them to be. So what they'll do is it will guide them on a big picture. What do I need to remediate? What did they not retain from that test? So this is another piece of data that I like a lot. This is a quadrant chart. And this is a really cool way to group students in a classroom, because it'll give you achievement. So that's that bar, remember? I said, I think the state test has a bar somewhere in the 50 to 60 percentile range. This is achievement this way. But what this tells us is growth. So what I've been telling my teachers is, this tells you, go to the next one, so just by reading. Now you can click show names. Of course, we're leaving the names off, but you can look at your students' achievement. What this tells you is, these are kids that are high achieving and high growing. These are your leaders. These are your classroom stars, typically. These are kids who did not even meet the 50 percentile for achievement, but look how much they grew. These 4 kids up here, they grew at the 100th percentile. So even though little Billy here, or little Brian, is at the 30th percentile, they doubled, met 100th percentile when compared to the national average. And then we have the converse. You got a high achieving kid who maybe isn't growing. Why? That's the question. Is it a lack of understanding? Or is it that little Brian has been pretty bright his whole life and is sitting back and needs a little kick in the pants? I don't know. It could be a variety of factors. And then we've got our kids down here, and we have to look at these kids and say, these are our at-risk kids. They're not growing and they're not achieving. Something has to be done sooner rather than later. Go ahead. Go ahead. Wrong way. There we go. This is you.
Yep. So then what you'll see here, then is what we have is this is clustered then by student names. One of the nice things about this tool, which we're going to show you as we go to the next, obviously where the black lines are, those would be student names, is this allows for teachers to look at student groupings based on those 4 main key strands. But what this allows too is this is actually something that's live on the internet. So those student names would be highlighted in blue. What you can do then is click on those specific student names, which Mr. Wingler is going to pop up right now. But what that'll do is then that'll tie students into those specific standards.
So what I've done is I've donated Miss Singer, Eva Singer, as our example. I got permission from her and Dad to make sure that was okay. And this is going to tell me in any of these areas where she's at. So for example, if I just gave the winter test and I want to focus on how to read the questions, which is a huge skill, right? How do you read a question? A lot of kids know content, but the state test, the ACT test, whatever the test is, the question is worded in a way that the student may not get the answer right, not because they didn't know what the atomic weight is of something, but because they did not understand the question. So I want to focus on how to use context clues and multiple meaning words. So,
while Mr. Wingler's pulling that up, one of the key pieces that you'll see with that and why it's so valuable to us is that then crosses over to our science and social studies teachers, because what that allows them to do is we can look at how students are inferencing what they're looking at with those questions. So it allows for us to use this across the board versus it being limited to just math and reading.
correct. And so what's nice is under using context clues, Ms. Singer is in this range. This tells us from a state standard point of view, this is where she's at. It gives us a lexile range, which is a reading range. So, like Mr. Harrison, I met with the social studies department, and we talked about social studies really looking at reading levels. Are we giving kids reading that is appropriate to their individualized level, rather than giving a text to a whole class? So this will tell us exactly where she's at. And we can look this up for every sub-skill in math or ELA. And sometimes, and with the previous slide, which I didn't spend a lot of time on, if I clicked on names, it will show you the difference between their achievement in math and reading. And there are kids in that top quadrant in one and the bottom in the other. And that speaks to their learning and where they're at. Let me get to the freeze it for a second, Mr. Hare.
Hold on.
And then, oh, too late. All right, so the last page I want to show you about this. So again, this is Miss Singer's. This is her test. So this, our vision at the high school is student-led conferences. And when you get to a conference, right, if you're not the best kid in achievement and behavior, those are easy conferences, right? Because you're gonna, teachers tell kids, your kid needs to work on this, 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 and this. But what I hear a lot, and I brag a lot about my youngest daughter, who's very smart, very gifted, and we go to her conferences, and I stop going because the teacher says, she's great, she does a great job. It doesn't tell me anything about my kid, other than that she doesn't get in trouble and she gets good grades. This tool is really nice because what this shows a whole bunch of different things. First off, in the fall, this is where Eva was. She grew to the 80th percentile, she achieved to the 94th. Very high achieving young lady in reading. But let's say I want to know, let's say Dad wants to know more than that. You want to know more than just she did great. This breaks it down by area. If I click on, her weakest area was vocabulary acquisition. And by weakest, she still had a really good score. But this will tell me, and Eva should be doing this in her spring conferences, telling Dad, these are the skills I still need to develop. This is where I'm at. And if we really want to challenge her, we click on introduce, and it will tell me what she's ready to be introduced to. Right? So, and sometimes it won't tell you because it means she's not there. But when the student is ready, it will tell what she's ready to be introduced to. So this is the most comprehensive piece of data that I've ever seen. Mr. Hare and I both came from Cleveland. We both use this in our schools in Cleveland, both of us. We were in separate schools. And this tool, if used once we get really comfortable, it can change the way you teach. Teachers, and as a former teacher, when I taught, I let kids often group themselves, right? And I tease, kids are the best fakers in the world. If you put me and Mr. Hare together, he's probably a lot smarter than me, and I'll pretend like I did all the work and shake my head at everything he does and go, I got it, I understand it. Without really knowing whether I do or not. You can't hide with this type of testing. It provides exactly where the kid is at. And it's given 3 times a year, so it's not just once a year in terms of providing data. Let me freeze that, Mr. Hare.
Hold on, don't move. All right, you're frozen. And the other nice thing is that as students take this over the years, is it'll continue to track. So we can continue to see the growth, which I think for a lot of especially our students who struggle, that has a lot of value. Because as a student, I can see that I am achieving, even though school might be hard, or I might really hate reading. I'm able to look at it and really say, hey, I know reading's hard for me, I understand, but as I'm working, I'm seeing that growth. I might be behind, and that's okay, because I know that I'm still growing and working towards our goal, which is all of our students being proficient and above. You ready?
Yeah. So that's not inclusive of everything in MAP. MAP is massive. There are tool after tool after tool, including student goal setting. At our meetings, I told my teachers, the best teacher I ever saw with MAP was a first grade teacher named Mrs. McIntyre over in Cleveland. When I walked into her classroom, kids had taped on their desk their results, their goals, and first graders could tell me, my goal for this type of reading is to be here by May. They knew it, the kids knew it, first graders. Not coincidentally, she had the most improvement and growth every single year in my building, every year I was there. There is so much stuff you could spend hours in this tool. These are the ones for right now that we're focusing as a high school in order to help teachers and support them with how they guide instruction. I just want to mention, because this is the first time I've been up here really talking about academics. My time here has almost always been about culture and all the cool stuff we're doing up at high school. I don't want to leave out a few things that we're doing because I think it's important for you to know. If you haven't been on the Brooklyn School blog, Mr. Holko's journalism class, we put about 3 to 4 articles a week up there.
While Mr. Wingler's opening that, I think we'd be remiss too, is that we've seen a lot of excitement from our teachers too. Teachers asking about and asking more about how to use the different reports in that, which I think is exciting for Mr. Wingler and myself, is to see the teachers really diving in and working through and looking at the different data that they can use to help drive some of their instruction in their classroom.
So the newspaper, if you haven't been on the website, anybody in the room, go on the website. There's articles aplenty. There's sports, there's school events. There's a great article about the Key Club and something they've got coming up. The students do this outside of school. This is an in-school class. They go to the events. They take the pictures. Our yearbook class and our journalism class both spend significant time outside of the school day working on these things. And if you haven't seen this is a really, really nice resource for news in the building. I want to mention from current slide. This year we are adding and I just put the homepage, the National Spanish Honor Society. We have a National Art Honor Society. We have the National Honor Society. We are adding a National Spanish Honor Society for our students who are advanced in Spanish and who are integrate their culture, and that part of their school day becomes a big deal. Last year, I believe 80% of our Spanish kids got a 4 or higher on the AP exam. Their success rate is really high. International Festival's coming up on February 10th, where we dedicate a good chunk of a school day to celebrating culture. First ring leadership, and I have a couple quick pictures at the end here. That's 5 juniors and 5 seniors who are going to they went to Baldwin Wallace last week. They go 5 times a year. They are part of a 17 school group They are doing active projects in our building. The juniors picked mental health, sent out a stress survey. Why are you stressed? Kids are stressed, everybody's stressed. My kids stress me out, but apparently kids are also stressed. And this is a feedback that they want to do something for high school students to be able to de-stress. Lift Up video, coming in March. We did one last year. If you didn't see it, it's still on YouTube. It's got like 9,000 views. It's really cool. We're in the process of making one. We waited this year because last year it was all fall. We want to do the winter sports this year. We know Newsies is coming up in March. Key Club, A Night to Shine. Does anyone know what A Night to Shine is? That is a prom for disabled teenagers. Key Club has a role volunteering at that, and we're hoping to get lots of pictures. Real quick, just Senior Center. The Key Club goes to the Senior Center. They've been several times, as has our choir. This gentleman was celebrating his 90th birthday, so I told him I was going to put his picture up here. And we have formed a really nice relationship. They request the same kids come back so they have a conversation. One more, you went the wrong way. Last picture, getting ready for the musical. They are seriously working. They've been working for over a month, 2 months already, and it is a full-time gig. So that's kind of still what's going on at the high school. Oh, first ring. I took a picture of the first ring of yours. All right. That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Hare or Mr. Wingler?
This may be a question for you. Both sets of data points, are those distilled down, can they be distilled down the scores plus the improvement as far as the report card is concerned? State report card? Can it be integrated into that?
Well, are you asking if it correlates?
Would they take? Where do they, as far as their information is concerned?
Well, the state report card looks at what their achievement was 1 year relative to achievement in the next year. And they put them all in quintiles, and it's a calculus that nobody really understands. So, nonetheless, it's kind of looking at one autopsy versus the other. This is more real-time prescriptive data that our teachers use on a given, because they do it 3 times a year, to really, how are our kids making progress during that given course of the year? So it's a little bit different data.
I think the state report cards is something called gap closing.
Okay.
And like Dr. Blackoff said, it's really year to year. It's a measure, and we did very well on it last year.
Right.
But like he says, it's not reactive. It's not a real-time measure. It doesn't tell me anything, or our teachers, that they can use to change anything. Because really, that's coming in about June 15th.
Right.
And they lose those kids to the next grade. So this tool, which we use at the high school for midterms, this tool gave our teachers data that they came back to from Christmas break, which was really nice because it was much more, we can be more nimble with that kind of data.
Okay.
So, a couple of points on that is, previously we had STAR data. You probably have heard us talk about STAR data. We chose to move to the map testing for some of the reasons that Mr. Wingler talked about. It's a much more robust data point. It gives us a lot more data on particular kids. You can see some of the reports it provides. And that's been a lot of the professional development that our teachers have been receiving this year is, how to use this data so that it really becomes prescriptive in their classes. So it's been a real powerful tool for us. We're also using it obviously through the pre-K 7. I don't want that to be lost on this. That a lot of our teams are looking at this data, together and saying, what's this mean? And Mr. Wingler did a nice job talking about how it can really help grouping of kids. And that way you really can target your instruction. But like he said, and the power of the data certainly is in a couple of things, in informing instruction, but it's also such a powerful tool for our students. There's great research out there that shows when kids themselves know where they are and progressing like this, it's a great motivational tool, and you'll see great success with that. So that's really where we want to get to. I know that Mr. Wingler talked about student-led conferences. I mean, that's really where you want, students talking about their learning, what they have, what were the areas that they need to continue to grow on. So this is a good tool. We're happy that we've got it, and we just need to continue to use it in a robust manner.
So the question is then, you're saying that after the map testing, the analytics are then shared with the students so they can see their strengths and weaknesses? at some point.
Truly, it has. And I think that's teacher by teacher, but it's truly, I know many are doing that and saying, you know, how are you doing? Let's try to map that out. Where are you going? How are you progressing on this? Are you making the progress that we think you should be doing? Thanks, gentlemen. Much appreciated.
Thank you. On to comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to the school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state his or her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until a total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all those who desire have the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Anyone wish to speak?
Good evening. I'm Dawn Blum, and I teach 5th grade language arts at Brooklyn School in room 208 at 9200 Bidoff Road. I would like to take a moment to congratulate Mrs. Bonnie Barczyk and Mr. Rick Singer as board president and vice president, respectively. I would also like to welcome Mrs. Mary Lee Bowen and Mr. Rob Slattery to the Board of Education. I stand before you as the president of the Brooklyn Education Association. We are here in support of this community and what they deserve. I have worked in this community since 1992 and became a full-time teacher in 1997. I've been a part of the negotiation process for 5 superintendents and multiple board attorneys. In my opinion, what is currently taking place in this district and during negotiations is quite perplexing. What you will hear tonight from the teachers are just some of the outlandish things that are happening. In our opinion, there is a disease growing in this district. A disease that, if left unchecked, could deal permanent harm to the long-term health of this district. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was told I had a disease, I would seek a second opinion. At the last board meeting, you approved to employ 5 law firms. What if you hear this evening perplexes you the same as it does me? Then perhaps you should consider a second opinion as well. Perhaps you should ask one of the other law firms that you have approved to share their opinion on your proposal. Perhaps you should get a second opinion on whether the items in it are truly needed and truly worth what the taxpayers have paid to date to argue for them. I recently made a public records request, asking for the amount that the board has paid out for legal services since January of 2018 to the present, to McGowan and Markling. The invoices that are received are dated from August of 2018 through October of 2019. So 14 months that are payable to McGowan and Markling, totaling $255,008.22. Let me repeat that, $255,008.22. I would remind you that this is close to the amount that would have been cut if the last levy did not pass. After receiving this information, I did ask for an itemized statement, so that I could perhaps figure out what was billed for our BEA negotiations versus other school business. My request was denied. The association is also struggling with a number of other items outside of negotiations that you will hear about tonight. For example, sick and personal leave accrual and balances on individual paychecks continue to be an ongoing issue. It seems that the change to the new payroll system, the district unilaterally decided to calculate leave balances on paychecks by the hour instead of by the day, like in the old system. This matters a great deal to our teachers, as both Ohio Revised Code and the contract specify that employees receive 15 sick days per year. We did not bargain this change with the board, and we do not want to have our contract violated in this fashion. I've been sending regular emails to David Hoskin and Mark Gleichoff about this issue in order to get it resolved. An update was sent via email on January 17th and shares that they plan to have this resolved in early February. While we appreciate their efforts resolving it by getting the hours calculated right, it is still wrong. The sick leave on paychecks must be calculated in days as per the contract and Ohio Revised Code.
Good evening.
My name is Tim Hanlon, and I have had the pleasure of teaching and coaching at Brooklyn High School for more than 20 years. As the BEA treasurer, I understand the importance of accurately maintaining the financial information of an organization. The association is struggling with several items related to payroll and benefits tracking. While we understand the Brooklyn Treasurer's Office is aware of these problems, we still want to voice our concerns. Everyone who is employed in this room should be able to look at their pay stubs and know their year-to-date earnings, as well as other benefit information, such as medical and personal leave balances. Unfortunately, some members of the BEA have not been able to do that with certainty since last July. In other words, the year-to-date calculations on their pay stubs have been wrong. The school district moved from using a payroll system called Paychecks to a provider called Kiosk. To our knowledge, the district initiated this transition in late July. Mr. Hoskin emailed teachers on July 25th telling them they would need to print anything that they needed prior to July 31st, when access to Paychecks would be ended. This only allowed 6 days for teachers to see this communication and to act. Since this notification came in the middle of summer, many teachers did not see the notice in time. A change of payroll providers typically takes months of planning. Why couldn't district employees be informed in May or June? It seems that many problems could have been avoided if communication would have happened ahead of staff leaving for summer break. This is a problem that we have never had, to my knowledge at least, during my entire time in the district. We are now in a new year, and W-2s need to be completed. Mr. Hoskin has said that he is working to make sure that they are accurate. How can we verify that these are correct with no access to our old pay stubs, correct year-to-date earnings, or annual salary notices? The teachers are very worried that the upcoming W-2s may not be accurate and that we have no way to double-check them. What happens if our earnings are reported incorrectly on our taxes? Will the board assume all of the tax liability for any incorrect information? Can you, as the board, guarantee that they will be correct? It would be easy to tell if we had access to our pay stubs, but sadly, we do not. Why is this important? Have you ever been audited? Have you ever dealt with the IRS? Have any of you tried to plan for an upcoming tax season and not know if you have accurate pay information? Have any of you tried to take a day off work and not know if you have the accrued time to take off because the computer system does not accurately reflect it? The lack of urgency shown for fixing this problem is extremely frustrating to the teachers. Finally, one of the most important functions of the treasurer's office is to ensure that the school system's payroll happens on time and is always accurate. Since last July, the treasurer's office has delivered payroll later than usual once and has not been able to deliver consistently accurate pay or leave information to some of our members. Issues like this cause us to question whether other information coming from the treasurer's office is accurate as well. This is not the Brooklyn way.
Hello, my name is Brian Keller. I teach music and band here in Brooklyn. I stand here today in a very uncomfortable role. I went to college to teach music, which I've done for the past 24 years. I did not go to school to negotiate contracts or talk in front of school boards. However, I have been entrusted by my colleagues to ensure we continue to work under a contract that is not only fair for teachers, but will also be in the best interest of the school district, the city, and the children of Brooklyn. Let me begin by saying this is not about money. If this were only about finances and insurance, the BEA negotiations team feels very confidently this contract would already be resolved. The reason we still do not have a contract after 20 months of negotiating is due to the language changes proposed by the board attorney and we assume the board and the superintendent. Here are some of the items we find to be outlandish and in some cases insulting. In the negotiation team's opinion, some of these items are being proposed just to add more billable hours for the board attorney or as a strategy to wear down the BEA negotiating team. For example, the board proposal changes the term 36 months to read 1,095 days. In another section, a change is made from 72 months to 2,190 calendar days. These types of changes happen throughout the contract proposal. In fact, it is impossible to read a paragraph without finding a change. Do these proposed changes really make the language clearer? Of course not. Quite the opposite, in fact. By this time in the negotiation process, after over a year and a half, we should be focused only on the key items we need to reach settlement. Instead, we are continually wasting time arguing over changes that, in the opinion of the BEA bargaining team, are totally unnecessary and a complete waste of time. The board proposal includes significant changes to our teacher workday. While the board's negotiation team said they would withdraw their proposed language, the next board proposal did not reflect the change. Was this an honest mistake? Since the board negotiating team did not regularly sit down with us to review the language, we do not know. Here is another example. Our current contract states an employee who anticipates a need to use sick leave shall notify the superintendent in writing within a reasonable time. The board proposal changes the phrase from reasonable time to 24 hours. So if an employee finds out on a Monday that she is pregnant, she must inform the superintendent by Tuesday? Is this seriously what you are asking? We feel this is an unreasonable and unnecessary request. Look through the contract and you will find plenty more that your team has proposed. These are only a few of the unnecessary changes your team proposed that are hindering our ability to achieve an agreement. Again, as I said at the beginning, I am a teacher, not a public speaker. However, our contract is very important. I have been in Brooklyn since 1999 and have had 5 superintendents in that time, and likely just as many, if not more, board attorneys. The fact of the matter is, this contract and all of us will likely be here longer than Dr. Gleichoff and Mr. Markling. That is why it is so important that we have a fair and meaningful agreement. It's what's in the best interest of the teachers of Brooklyn, it's what's in the best interest of the students, and it's also in the best interest of the city of Brooklyn.
Hello, my name is Courtney Gomez. I teach kindergarten at Brooklyn School, room 138, and I've been a teacher in Brooklyn since 2008. I've been part of the BEA negotiations team as an alternate and the executive team for 6 years. We are providing each of you tonight with a blue folder. Inside the folder, you will find a copy of your most recent proposal. You will also find a copy of our response to that proposal. Please note that our response has handwritten comments in blue ink in the margins next to each item that you have proposed. These are identical copies of the documents the parties exchanged in December. The folder also contains a copy of the legal invoices that the board has paid to the board's attorneys since the start of our negotiations process. These invoices were provided to the BEA as part of a public records request. Finally, inside the folder, you will also see a complete listing of all of the tentative agreements that we have reached since negotiations began a year and a half ago. As you review the list, you will surely notice that there is nothing on it, that all of the spaces are empty. Yes, that is correct. In 20 months of bargaining, we have not come to one tentative agreement. Now, this is not from a lack of effort on our part. In fact, the BEA has been asking since before school started this year to TA all of the sections we have repeatedly told your team that we are in agreement on. These are the sections with the blue TA written in the margins of the contract in your packet. In every instance, your attorney has declined to do so. This makes 0 sense to us, but it's exactly what has happened. In a normal negotiation, both parties come to the table with specific items they would like to discuss. They then work to come to an agreement on each item as they work through them. Then they TA those items and move to the next one. They don't make changes to virtually every section of the contract and to every paragraph. Unfortunately, that's exactly what the board has done in their proposal. We believe at this point the board should have much more to show for the time and taxpayer money the board has spent on this process. It is our opinion that those resources would be much better used for our Brooklyn students as opposed to spending them on attorney fees. It's time for people to start asking the right questions.
Hello, my name is Sharon Freight, and I teach 7th grade math in room 110, just down the hallway. This is my 25th year as a Brooklyn teacher. I have been involved in the negotiation process for almost 20 years. In all that time, I have not experienced a negotiation process quite like this one. In our opinion, this refusal to TA agreements when they are reached is unprecedented and is a violation of our contract. Furthermore, in our opinion, it wastes our time and taxpayer money as it forces our team to continually have to scour your entire proposal every time we get a new version of it. Please know that this process can take us 8 to 12 hours to do. Think how expensive that is to taxpayers to pay an attorney to sit in Dr. Gleichoff's office for 8 to 12 hours. every time we must go over the new proposal from the board, start to finish. Think how much time could be saved if we TA'd things as we went along, like in normal negotiations. Rather than focusing on areas of legitimate concern, we have been given complete rewrites of the entire contract. In the opinion of the BEA, these rewrites are nothing more than gratuitous and unnecessary changes. And though some of these changes may be presented by the board team as just a cleaning up of the language, we have found that many of them are profound changes to the contract. We have even found changes that were mistakes that the board did not intend to change. So again, it is vital that we read each and every word every time we are given a colossal proposal to make sure that nothing has changed that shouldn't be from last time. Now you may think that our negotiations team has spent a great deal of time with Dr. Glykoff, Mr. Hoskin, and Mr. Markling. That is not the case. While we have had a few marathon sessions, some even lasting past 11 p.m. on a school night, the time spent meeting together has been less than it should be. I can't tell you how disheartening it is to read through pages and pages of gratuitous changes only to be told no one is available to meet with us, or that they have even left the building without so much as telling us they are gone while we are still going through their gigantic proposal. In our opinion, our time would be much better spent working together on topics that are truly important to both parties, as opposed to doing a complete rewrite of the contract under the false claim of making it clearer. Believe me, it is not clearer. While we have agreed to many of your proposed changes solely to expedite the process, in no way do we think we needed them in the first place. Quite the contrary, in fact. As Brian has said, we do not agree with everything presented, nor do we expect to. We know that this is part of the negotiations process, and we have been willing to agree to many items. But why can't we TA them? What sense does that make? Finally, how can you as a board justify that and the cost that it presents to the taxpayers? There are far better things that we as a district can spend money on than that.
Hello, my name is Chris Ross. I am a senior counselor at the high school, 9200 Bidoff Road. I'm in my 21st year as an educator here at Brooklyn. And when speaking to teachers about why they become educators, I often hear the following responses. To make a positive difference in the lives of students, I wanted to be just like Mr. or Ms. So-and-so because they were really great and I wanted to do the same. And I just love so-and-so, and I wanted to share that excitement with young and inquiring minds. I want to have an impact on future generations by helping them become productive, thoughtful, and reasonable citizens of society. I love watching students with potential achieve success. I love the interaction among students, parents, and teachers, and by teaching others, I can continue to teach myself. These are just a few of the responses to the question, why did you become a teacher? There are many others too numerous to list here. These answers reflect the tone at Brooklyn City Schools. The teachers here connect with the students and make a difference in the lives of each child that graces our halls every single day. All the teachers who had the impressionable teacher role model has taken it upon himself or herself to continue being that role model for others. Those teachers who are passionate about their subjects or grade levels are involved in many outside groups, committees, and programs so that they are able to continue growing as an educator and afford students different opportunities to make those real-life connections to whichever subject. Teaching is a noble profession, one that mandates that teachers challenge themselves in the same way they challenge their students. A profession that mandates a passion for education and a sacrifice for all of the behind-the-scenes things that happen without anyone being the wiser. A profession that doesn't start at 7:30 a.m. and end at 3:15 p.m. Monday through Friday with summers off. The professionals in this district are amazing at what they do daily. The face of a student when the concept has clicked is beyond words. We, the teachers, are the advocates for all the students who do not have a voice. We, the teachers, are the people who are able to create a safe, friendly, and inviting environment for all who are with us. We, the teachers, carry the responsibility of hundreds of lives within the walls of Brooklyn City Schools. We, the teachers, carry the responsibility of helping to shape and mold the students in whichever career path they choose. We, the teachers, support the students and their families by being available and reaching out. We, the teachers, affect not only the lives of our students, but the collective future of all humanity. Being a teacher takes great patience, strength, courage, stamina, compassion, intelligence, humor, kindness, a caring and generous heart, and great sacrifice. The professionals at Brooklyn City Schools fulfill these demands every day. Know that we, the teachers, will continue to do so, and that we take great pride in being the pillars on which the students stand.
Hello everyone, my name is Luanne Angele. I teach in room 232, 9200 Biddulph Road. I'm a third grade teacher at Brooklyn School. This is my 27th year as a teacher, and I have spent my entire teaching career employed by the Brooklyn City School District. I even did my student teaching here. It is the pride I have in my career choice that brings me here tonight. I would like to tell you about the value that teachers with many years of experience can bring to a district like Brooklyn. Many of us here have made the Brooklyn City Schools our professional home for 20+ years, and our experience is priceless. We have a lot more than time invested in the Brooklyn City Schools. As teachers, we are grateful for job security. In the past, seniority has been the determining factor when staffing decisions have to be made. With this policy, our teaching experience is given value. As teachers, we are always seeking ways to make the required content more meaningful to our students. We prepare our students for their lives beyond school by creating in them a desire to read, learn, and question. As a senior teacher, I ask that we are evaluated fairly, recognized for our value, and appreciated for our dedication. Our seniority is a plus, not a minus. Over the years, we have seen many curricular changes. The past several years, we have been without major curriculum or textbook adoptions. Teachers have had to search online, personally purchase materials, develop new units of study without the presence of a published curriculum. While our teaching experience really helps us accomplish all of this searching takes time that would be better spent working with the children. With a consistent curriculum in place, we can cover all of the required standards, have the resources we need, and give reliable, valid assessments. I am thankful that there is now a committee in place working on a potential adoption of a math program. In public education today, a solid curriculum coupled with experienced teachers is a top priority. In Friday's mail, I received this flyer from Cuyahoga Heights Schools, and it's highlighting the reasons that families should choose them for their children's education. We don't live in that school district. Dr. Glykoff has mentioned many times how important it is for Brooklyn City Schools to present itself as the school of choice, and I agree. To make our school district the destination of choice for education, we must recognize the service, loyalty, and devotion of our wonderful staff. In conclusion, I'd like to thank all of the teachers and classified staff members for their hard work and dedication to our students. I am especially grateful to have spent my 26.5-year career here in Brooklyn with staff members who time and again prove that their hearts are in it for the long haul. We just love kids, and it shows.
Good evening. My name is Sue Grodick. I live at 4748 Sunny Lane, and I've lived here in Brooklyn since 1990. Many of you know that both of my sons attended our schools, kindergarten through graduation. Several of the educators that helped shape their lives are in this room with us tonight. I've been an educator here in Brooklyn for 20 years. Besides the title of mom, teacher is the title I wear most proudly. Being an educator defines much of my life. I love working in our district. I think it provides a lot of unique opportunities as well as responsibilities. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to increase my knowledge of teaching reading through the district sponsors letters training that we've been receiving. I also appreciate the support of my use of Daily 5 to structure reading lessons in my second grade classroom. Teaching reading has always been a passion for me. I hold a master's degree in elementary reading and my reading endorsement through Ohio Department of Education. But even with my extensive background and experience, I am always looking for ways to improve my craft. I take my responsibility to provide engaging, relevant, and skilled lessons to my students very seriously. To ensure that I'm supporting my young readers, I need a most precious resource: time. Time to gather books and other learning materials. Time to develop and prepare engaging activities that help students deepen their knowledge in a variety of ways. Time to integrate ever-changing technology into my classroom. Time to analyze the MAP test that you heard about this evening to help track student growth, organize reading groups, and guide my instructions, just as you've heard about this evening. Time to assess my students' individual abilities so I can share with them their accomplishments and help them set goals to improve. Time to develop differentiated lessons to meet the diverse needs of the students of Brooklyn City Schools. Our current contract language that provides teachers with daily, unrestricted, individual planning time is critical to my success as a teacher. I hope that the district trusts that I'm a professional. I use my knowledge, experience, passion, and time responsibly and wisely for the betterment of our students. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Burke, and I'm in room 231 in Brooklyn School. I'm a third grade teacher. Teaching is my second career. After spending 20 years in business, I chose to follow my passion, which is helping children learn. I cannot fully describe the feeling a teacher gets when students feel the success of learning. The moment their faces light up, after they finally accomplish a goal, is really like seeing a light bulb turn on. My day begins with greeting smiling students, excited to start the school day. When students give me quick hugs as they leave for the day, I know that I have established a relationship with them that will last way beyond the current school year. This is my 11th year at Brooklyn. Prior to joining the district, I spent my very first year teaching at a Cleveland charter school. When I was lucky enough to join the Brooklyn team, I knew I found a place that felt like home. The staff welcomed and supported me as I slowly learned what it really takes to become a great teacher. Administrators stopped by my classroom to see how I was doing and made a point of getting to know me not just as a teacher, but as a member of a very special community. Teachers reached out and helped me organize my classroom, provided me with materials, and laughed with me at the end of long days when I wasn't sure I was making a difference. When I lost both my parents, and then soon after, my husband, my teacher family was there to help me. When I relocated to Brooklyn, my teacher friends were there to help me move. The efforts of all these great people have made me feel appreciated and valued as a vital member of the Brooklyn team. Over the past few years, and especially during these contract negotiations, I feel that the relationship between teachers and administration has weakened. While I do not believe it is the intention of the board to create an undesirable school climate, the way these negotiations are being conducted and the message being sent by the board proposal is resulting in a feeling of distrust. To be a successful district, both groups must work together to find common ground. As we look at the Brooklyn City School District vision, we have agreed that academic success is fostered by collaboration and diversity. We may not always agree on everything, but we do agree with our joint mission statement of encouraging, preparing, and empowering students. We need to commit to having open, honest, and consistent communication without fear to promote trust. As the teacher speaking before me said, this is not about money. Teachers want to be respected, appreciated, and treated like professionals. My hope is that our negotiation will soon be successfully completed, and all parties can focus their energy into preparing Brooklyn students for successful futures.
Anyone else wish to speak? One second. Want everyone to have a chance to speak. I would like to recognize Rick Singer because we've reached our half hour, so.
Yeah, I make a motion to the school board to extend the the allotted 30 minutes to a 40-minute public forum session. I make that motion.
Second it.
Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
As soon as I finish writing it. Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes. Yes. Go right ahead.
Well, hi everybody. You guys, I came at a great night because now all of the teachers that my
Mr. Chigary, can you give your name
Oh,
and
I'm
address,
sorry.
please? Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Changary, 8705 Morton Avenue in the great city of Brooklyn. I have 3 children in the district, and in fact, every single one of the speakers that came up and spoke have had my children in their classroom. I do want to say thank you, Madam President, for being our president and the winners of the school board. I was going to come here and talk about something else, but now I've had my eyes opened to the $250,000 that we just wasted on useless attorneys. Now, this is off the cuff. I've been in meetings with our superintendent, and most of you know that my advocacy role at Brooklyn ended when I decided to run for school board. I was asked not to be the surrogate parent for this district because of whatever reasons they would never give me. Now, I am going to throw superintendent under the bus. This is total. I feel like you portrayed me in private meetings that I had my mother and my future betrothed in this meeting discussing exactly what you guys are talking about. In the old days, now I come from a background of working at General Motors. In the old days, you would sit at a table, and I even mentioned this to both sides of the aisle because I respect both sides of the aisle. We used to sit in the auditorium, and we would have specific times, 20-minute sessions to talk about an item, and the public was present in the auditorium. And it would take maybe a week to get the contract negotiated. Now, I'm very disappointed in what I've been told. I went out, put my reputation on the line, which I value very highly in this community, to get a levy passed and find out 10% of the money was pissed away on attorneys. Now, the credibility is totally shot here, in my opinion. There are lawsuits I could have filed against this district, and I have chosen not to on behalf of my children because I don't want to be a burden to the system that I pay taxes into. But I think I'm going to have to turn that switch back on because there's obviously, and I'm very sorry for raising my voice, but there's obviously an unlimited pot of cash that people are taking money out of to pay attorneys. Because you know what? I'm one of the people that have to sit across from them when I negotiate for my 3 children with disabilities to get this district to do something. And if it wasn't for the professionalism of all these teachers in this room, I don't think I would be in this district right now. And I can tell you that, and I am very disheartened, and my feelings are really hurt by this superintendent. Not the board, but the superintendent does not run this district. And if you look back at all the videos of the times I've spoken here and put them all together, you know, I apologize for the teachers I've thrown under the bus. From now on, I will go and talk to the teacher individually. I did not know that my complaints were being used as bargaining tools against you, nor will that ever happen again.
Mr. Chingary, one moment, please. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay.
Okay, I will sit down. I am very sorry
You see,
about
you have a-
going on.
Do you have a wrap it up?
The point is there's several issues when we talked about the curriculum. I was told that it was adopted by the state right off the website. This is the first I've heard that the teachers are having to develop a curriculum that is not on the website. I bring that in as the Bible of education for my children and put it on the desk like I did at the last 2 meetings and say, this is what you're supposed to teach. I had no clue you guys were making your own curriculum. So I apologize to the new board members. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to all the teachers. Please don't leave the district because of this contract. My children love every single one of you. I'm not here as a representative of the teachers union, and I'm not here as a representative of the school board. I am a taxpayer and elector and a very, very active member of this community. And I am very, very unhappy at what I just heard. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
My name's Earl Bloom. I live at 4720 Forest Edge Drive. I've been a resident of Brooklyn for 55 plus years. 2 children graduated from here. I've spent 8 years, many years ago, as a member of this board. I'm really, and I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but after hearing what I've heard, I feel I must. I'm shocked at the cost of $250,000 paid for legal fees for a contract that's been being negotiated for 20 months. That is disgraceful. You folks, we have a levy coming up in March, a renewal levy. How are the citizens of Brooklyn going to respond when they hear that you've spent this much money and yet you want more money for us taxpayers? Now, I've always been a very strong supporter of this school. I've been out front all these years supporting everything. I have my doubts now. I'm really upset about this, like Michael said. I really don't know what the issues are in this contract. I'm asking the board, do you know what the issues are in this contract? Do you know what all the details are? Or are you going to be like a Nancy Pelosi back in Obamacare when she said we have to pass it first and we'll read it and find out what's in it? Because if you don't know what's in this contract, what the issues are, I suggest you do get involved, because we've got to get this resolved. And I would suggest you resolve it before the levy comes up in March, or this levy is not going to pass.
I agree.
Now, you've got an unhappy workforce here. You see all these teachers standing out here? They're unhappy. They're not here because they really want to. They're here because they feel they need to be. An unhappy workforce does not mean the most productivity, and our students are the ones that are going to pay for this. So I'm asking you, the board, and everybody involved, let's get this contract resolved on its way. Let's get these issues resolved, and let's go to the public in our community and show that we have a unified front and we're doing the best for our students. For this contract to continue on, or the lack of contract to continue on, is not in the best interest of the city of Brooklyn or in our students. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go on to comments from superintendent.
Certainly, thanks, Mrs. Barczak. I will certainly say this: it is our intent as superintendent, treasurer, board council to get a new contract as well. So that has been our intent and our desire as well. So know fully that that is what we are aimed to do, and certainly I've kept you guys apprised of where we are in those negotiations. So, in terms of, I heard a lot of things tonight, and, I didn't plan on this, so, what some of the things talked about Brooklyn with great opportunities and possibilities. And absolutely, I can't agree with that more, because that is something why I came back here 5 years ago. And I do believe we are certainly on a high because of some of the things that we've done, some of the things the board, the teachers, the staff have done over the last several years. We've got a lot to be proud of. As my mother always said, make things better than you got them. And so that's what my attempt to do as superintendent always has been. And so I think you'll notice that. Now, with that being said, I've got a short report tonight. I want to just talk about a few different things. First is certainly, this is last November's. Can you put the one from today? On Saturday, Support Our Schools Levy Dinner. The SOS has been meeting to kind of prepare for this. This is certainly the last push. The Support Our Schools Levy Committee is doing that. They've been met with the organizers, Mr. and Mrs. Flanagan, even today. A lot of good things, certainly with this. Great food, door prizes, student entertainment. We have a lot of our musicians, our student musicians are going to be performing, and raffle baskets. It looks to be a great opportunity, but hopefully this can be a celebration of Brooklyn. What is good about our district and about our kids. And I think it's been a great event over the last several years. We've had upwards of 250, 275, meals that have been sold there. So we're hoping that we can continue to do that. And obviously, yes, it is a fundraiser, but it really is a great event for all of us here in Brooklyn. Second thing I want to talk about certainly is we have got an issue number. Our March 17th levy has an issue number. That's issue number 25. So it tells you kind of the propensity of the number of issues that are on there. Again, what is issue 25? It's a 7-year emergency operating renewal levy that generates $2.1 million per year. Again, just to reiterate, it is not a new tax issue here. Wanted to take just a moment to talk a little bit about this. If I've done this before, I apologize, but I think it's good to kind of show a little bit. We've had 2 levies that have expired here in 2020 due to happenstance. It's kind of a funky thing, and that's why we've been on the ballot, it seems, every single time. Last November, we just renewed that 5-year operating levy. That comes back in here in 2025. We have an emergency levy that also expired here in 2020. It's an emergency levy, which gives us some flexibility on how many years we can actually renew it for. So as we've talked with the board, one of the things that we recommended, let's kind of space these things out. This is being a 7-year emergency operating levy. If you notice, we've got kind of an open time in here. We've been in a levy tunnel over the last kind of 25 months. We've got to get out of it. And God willing, hopefully on March 17th, we'll be able to do that. Because one of the things that we're talking with the good people of Brooklyn about is we're not going to have to come back for a renewal until 2023. That means at least the very earliest we'd be coming back is in November of 2022. And that is, I think that the people of Brooklyn need a break here. We need to kind of get out of this, and hopefully we can do that. So again, this is a 7-year emergency operating levy. The other thing I just wanted, because January is such, issue 25, these are some of the things that are going to happen with the campaign. Finance forums, we've got a couple of dates set up. February 12th is going to be that kickoff one here in the auditorium. We'll hold another on March 10th. But obviously some of the campaign elements that we've been doing in the past. Going door to door, there's no substitute for talking with folks, face to face in terms of, where we are and what it is. What is issue 25? We'll also be working with, phone calling, social media. Those will be the aspects that we've been using, and also mailers that go out. So that's going to be the big portion of this campaign. Because it's a primary election, we're expecting somewhere in the area of about 38 to 39% of electorate coming out. That's using over the last several, presidential primary times. It's probably going to be within, I would say, a percentage or 2 of that. So that equates to probably somewhere about 2,700 votes that we believe will be cast across Brooklyn. But January is also Board of Education Appreciation Month. Mr. Hoskin and I wanted to take that opportunity to kind of, on behalf of the city of Brooklyn, kind of talk and thank our board members for that. A lot of people wonder, what do boards of education do? Establish policy, based on state laws, community values, goal setting, long-term range planning, obviously negotiating contracts with unions, etc. There's all that stuff. But I think a lot of folks don't realize the other things too. There's a lot of meetings. We have 2 public meetings that we have per month. Many of you are involved on different board committees. We meet, frequently with those as well. And strategic planning. You're also meeting with those and also working with us in terms of administration on that. So there's a lot of involvement. And obviously we also talk about the advocacy. You know, as we've been dealing with some of the issues in terms of finance, as well as ed choice in our district, across in all districts in Ohio, those are things that board members I know have been very, very involved with. Also, I know that many of you are attending sessions to, you know, boardsmanship and planning and finances and all that stuff, because, you know, district finances is not easy stuff. And so trying to understand that as board members. So I know there's a lot of training and professional development that you guys do as well. So, you know, certainly on behalf of all of us, the administration, the students, the teachers, the staff, I want to thank and acknowledge all of us, all of you as Board of Education members. Certainly we're a blend, as you look up there, of experience and new. And, you know, having, you know, 32, 33 years of experience, but still having a couple of new board members, that's really kind of exceptional. So I want to just take this opportunity to say thank you. And, you know, especially to our couple of new board members, you know, welcome and good luck. So thank you, Mrs. Barczyk. Appreciate it. Mary Lee, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Mr. Slattery, welcome. And Mr. Oakham. Mrs. Barczyk, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Now on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Hoskins?
I've got two quick things. The excess costs for fiscal 19 were submitted on Friday, the 17th, and the auditors are back in my office, and the requests keep coming. They just keep needing more materials, and they send us an email, and we dig through our records and provide those to them. So they probably will be here another 3 days. Wrap it up. It needs to be completed by the 31st with the extension we got from last year.
Thank you. Now on to comments from board members and board committee reports. Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. Nice to see everybody back and working after the holidays and hopefully recover from all the holiday hangovers. Thank you, Principal Wingler, for your presentation. It's quite impressive to see the demonstration of how MAP works. I think it's going to give our teachers a great tool for more reactive analytics on how best to address perhaps some weaknesses and deficiencies in some of our students. I'd like to encourage everybody to please attend the January 25th dinner for the Support Our Schools, support issue 25, and hope you can get out to support the emergency levy. We certainly need the money to continue to grow as a school district, and encourage everybody to help out on February 12th and March 10th. I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage our Brooklyn businesses to take out ads in our Facebook, and also to buy banners that can be hung out at both the field house and the stadium. Great way to advertise and promote our Brooklyn schools. I want to thank all the teachers from the BEA who came up and spoke. I saw one resounding theme, and that was having more communication. So hopefully we'll be able to sort everything out that we need to sort out as far as some misgivings and I don't know if I'd call it disease, but you know, some deficiencies. Maybe we need to do some analytics with union contracts. I'd also ask Dr. Glykoff and our treasurer, Mr. Hoskins, if you'd be so kind as to itemize the legal fees of $255,000 that was spent, as was mentioned in some of the communiques. I know we have several law firms. There's a reason for each specialty law firm that handles bonds and union negotiations and construction. So I personally would like to see a breakdown of those legal fees in the last 14 months as to who they were for. But also, I know that we've faced some possible litigation issues, and I'd like to know what those invoices were for. If that would be, if you would indulge me on this. I always believe in the theme of research before you react. Mr. Chingari, I don't know if he's still here, but, you know, we cannot negotiate contracts in public forums. I think he mentioned that. And that's not permitted under Ohio law. Let's see. I think it was great to hear from our teachers and love your commitment to educating our students. I have 2 daughters in our school system, and they love their teachers, all of them, all of them. So if they love their teachers, Daddy loves their teachers too. Because I don't have to put up with them. No, I'm blessed. I'm blessed with some good students. And they're good students because of your commitment. I'm going to mention this again because you're all here. A lot of your teachers are here. The way, as a board, I've been on this board now for 10 years, the way I see a successful school system is when our children run to school in the morning and are slow to walk out of the school building, okay, at the end of the day. And you know what? I put the teachers in the same category. When I see teachers getting to classes early, you know, to prepare, and when sometimes they're the last to leave to shut the lights out in the classroom, to me, you don't get a better impression. You can talk all you want. There's a lot of, you know, stuff that people can say and everything else, but action speaks louder than words. When you see that, it gains a lot of respect for both the students and the teaching staff. So thank you for that. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. Now, Mr. Oper?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank everybody here. I'd like to thank Mr. Wingler for your presentation. That was very informative. I'd like to thank all the teachers that spoke. The word that comes to my mind is passion and commitment to what you do as professionals. My players report is fairly short. At last week's organization meeting, Mr. Tom Herbster of North Olmsted and Mr. Richard Micko of Strongsville were elected president and vice president respectively. The community reinvestment area agreement with Medical Mutual that we ratified here at our December meeting was ratified by the players as they get a small proportion of the diverted taxes as well. We had a review of enrollment, and someone kind of take a point of pride in. We may not be the biggest school that goes to players, but we have the biggest percentage of students. Mr. Ross, you know, it's up to 49% of juniors and seniors are there. I always get a lot of, yeah, I'll get a lot of crap from the other guys because they're actually, the one guy from Olmsted Falls asked me if we were making it
Mandatory.
Senior high school. There's 518 applications in career tech for the coming year. Most of them are filled. The ones that are overfilled, they will be asked to, and that's due to a timing issue, if they want to take another, something related in that category. Like I said, 49%, nobody else is any bigger than 35, which has always been a point of pride for me. I am for school choice, but as I said, with the passion and commitment that I hear, I happen to be convinced that Brooklyn Schools offers the best choice for quality education in this city and this area. That being said, to be blunt, the Ed Choice program sucks. And the main reason for that suckage is always good to state it's a financial one. Ed Choice continues to be a critical and popular topic among lawmakers and school officials. Although Brooklyn is not an Ed Choice designated school or district, 86 of the 88 counties in Ohio are. The growth and the momentum of this program is really scary. February 1st, parents can begin to apply for Ed Choice scholarships that will take money directly from the state foundation payments that Brooklyn gets. And we're not getting what we should get anyway. The legislators want to create a fix, but they didn't arrive back in Columbus until today, and nobody's really confident there's going to be a fix by February 1st because of the one thing we can count on is the sluggish speed of the legislature. Dr. Glykoff will be contacting Representative Sweeney and Senator Antonio, and they at least have some sense of urgency on the subject and how it's funded. Once again, to piggyback on everybody else, don't forget our spaghetti dinner this Saturday and issue 25 on the ballot on St. Patrick's Day of all days. I can be reached at james.oper@bcshurricanes.org or at 216-485-8195, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Oper. Now on to Ms. Marilee Bowen.
Hi, good evening to everyone. I must say that I feel very proud to be here because of all the votes that I received to be here. And I'm just moved by all the passion and the feeling that is in this room tonight. I've always felt that the schools were good, and because of good teachers and dedicated teachers and parents' relationships. I'm here because I really care about children. I don't have children of my own, but I had the opportunity to help raise my siblings. And in my heart, I really hope that the city and the schools will work together to make Brooklyn a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to educate our children. And my priority is to really listen very closely and carefully to all of your passionate words. It's just moved me, and thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm going to do everything I can to make things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lee. Now on to Mr. Slattery.
I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I've actually sat on that side a couple times when you showed up, and it was kind of scary having you all sitting behind me. I didn't get it tipped off. I just happened to wear the same color you guys picked today, so I guess that's lucky. I'll stop and get a lottery ticket on the way home. To the people that voted me in, I appreciate it. I hope I do what you expect. For the people that didn't vote for me, I hope I win you over by showing that I will try my best. Thank you for this information. I promise, I can't remember who gave it to us. I will go through that. You have my word. I will spend the time you spend going through that. I know some of the teachers here. The other ones, I will do my best to get around, and you'll see me at events, and I'm going to kind of walk the halls and kind of hang out. I walked them a long time ago. I graduated in 1987 from here, so building looks a little bit different. I do want to mention, number one, we have the spaghetti dinner that's been mentioned. Number two, there's 4 different groups. I got 2 emails, one from Mr. Hans about the polar bear plunge. So it's on February 29th. I don't know. I might be one of these chicken ones that kind of just helps out in the background. I'll see. And then also we got an email from Mr. Casper. He's looking for, it says hello, it's your local beggar calling, and he's looking for round or square mirrors that measure 2 feet. They need them for the play. So if you know anybody that has any of that, bring them in. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to take them. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slattery. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone who came tonight, and I'd like to thank everyone who spoke. The board does listen to everything that the people come up and say. We do. We take all of that to heart. Thank you so much. I don't want to comment, or I don't want to come back and forth. I do know that the $250,000 is not just for negotiations. That's legal fees for many other things that we do as a board, and things that legal fees are something that we can't get around. We just have to make sure that some things have to require our, legal counsel. That's why we have 5 different legal teams. We have one for our land sales, one for construction, negotiations. They all have various different purposes. But I would also like to, I know all my fellow board members have mentioned the spaghetti dinner on Saturday from 4 to 7. Please come. I'd love to see all of you there on Saturday. It'll be great. It'll be a great event. And also, I know the Newsies is getting ready in March, and that'll be a wonderful event. I believe we also received an email about needing newspapers. Shocker, Newsies needs newspapers. So if anybody has any newspapers that they would like to donate, I'm sure the high school will be more than willing to take them. Mr. Wingler. Thank you, Mr. Wingler and Mr. Hare, for their presentation. I think map testing is a great way to see where our district is going and how much we are accomplishing. I think sometimes the state tests that come out once a year can be deceiving as to what we are accomplishing here at Brooklyn City Schools, but the map testing, I think, is a very good way to show the growth that students are individually doing and the strides that they are making. So I think map testing is phenomenal. I can always be reached at 216-406-4304. And now on to the agenda. And tonight's reader is Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. Be resolved that the minutes of the December 17th, 2019 and December 27th, 2019 Board of Education meeting be adopted, and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Abstain.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the minutes of the January 7th, 2020 Board of Education organizational meeting be adopted, and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City Schools District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with Lorraine County Community College, otherwise known as LCCC, to qualify students for College Credit Plus during the 2020-21 school year per the attachment.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Slattery, moved by Mr. Oper. Questions, comments?
Pretty much a standard agreement here for College Credit Plus. The high schools are to have agreements with local universities. LCCC is one of those. We've been working with them and trying to expand, their presence here with us. They've offered us online classes. They've offered us some dual enrollment courses. Again, you'll notice in the agreement that there's a floor, which is about $41 per credit hour, which is pretty standard amongst all universities or colleges when you do that dual enrollment. So,
It's a conduit to Cleveland State.
yeah, that's the LCCC connection, is that they have a subsequent agreement with Cleveland State, so that everything transfers there. So, we talk about dual enrollment, I almost think of this as almost triple enrollment.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the applications for the following fundraising activity, which is on file in the Treasurer's Office. BHS Class of 2020 Prom, Brooklyn School Principal School Fundraiser, 8th grade Washington D.C. trip. That's it.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Pretty standard fundraising activities that are happening by groups coming up next month.
Bring the Mally's chocolates to the board meetings. I know this board member loves them. Loves Mally's chocolates. Mally's chocolates.
No salads.
No salads. No, the chocolate. I'll take the chocolate. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approves the creation of a local chapter, Los Huracanes, the Hurricanes chapter of the Sociedad Honoraria Hispanica, which is an honor society for high school students enrolled in Spanish and/or Portuguese, sponsored by the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese. This BHS chapter will follow AATSP criteria for induction and will begin inducting students this school year.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second that.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Wingler mentioned this in his report. Mrs. Hulko has come to us and wanted to do this. I think this is a great opportunity. We want to look at ways that we can honor our students, and she wanted to develop this, and it really is. There's no loss. There's no cost really here. So it's just a great way. I think the kids, if they do get inducted into it, they'll actually have a cord that will reflect that with graduation.
I just think they should have thrown a little bit more Spanish in their test, Rick.
I know. Remember? Did you take Latin or did you take Spanish, Rick?
Both.
The romance language.
Back in the dinosaur days.
Yes. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Jessica Pug, 2 hours per day as a CATS employee at an hourly rate of $11 per hour, effective January 21st, 2020, with additional subbing hours as needed.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Yeah, Ms. Pogue was subbing in there for a little bit of time, kind of going through the transition period where the person who was previously in that was transferred to another position. And while that person has the opportunity to fall back to their previous position, we kind of have them as a temporary sub in there. So, but now that that person is solidified in their new job, we can officially approve Jessica.
Thank you. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2019-2020 supplemental teaching assignments, with the provision that such individuals comply with all rules and regulations and the State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. Intervention K2, Christina Bacha. Intervention 3 through grades 5, Susie Marquez.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, these are two supplemental teaching assignments. Unfortunately, they were overlooked earlier in the year, but these two folks have been working in these particular supplementals since the beginning of the school year.
Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the resignation of Ashley Johns, classroom assistant, effective January 10th, 2020.
Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to accept this. Ashley has some family commitments that have now come up over the break that she's going to have to take care of.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following substitute personnel for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. Substitute classified, Elizabeth Deekhoner, dishwasher, Ashley Johns, classroom assistant, and dishwasher.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Elizabeth and Ashley, they're going to be subbing in some of these positions until we can get somebody hired in regularly.
Thank you. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2019-2020 supplemental coaching assignments with the provision that such individuals comply with all Ohio High School Athletic Association rules and regulations and the State Department of Education regulations pertaining to proper certification and/or first aid training, and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. They are JV baseball coach Timothy Betcha and JV baseball coach David Oltag. I'm sorry.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, these are recommendations from Athletic Director Verba. The JV baseball coach, it's one supplemental, so Timothy and David, they're going to be splitting it. As you can see, the percentages there. It's kind of become more regular, where multiple people might split a particular supplemental, due to time constraints.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the fifth amended certificate of resources for fiscal year 2020.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins?
Yes, this was, amendment was generated by the Budget Commission as part of the Cuyahoga County Auditor's Office. And the change is only to the taxes, and they've increased the taxes for the general fund by the new levy that was passed in May. This original certificate that included taxes was passed after our tax budget was approved in 2019. That went into effect July 1st of 2019, and there's no, the county won't change the taxes until after they know what the valuation is, they know what the collection rate is, and they know what levies have been passed or failed. So based on the passage of the levy, the collection rate, and the assessed valuation, they have now updated our taxes. And that's the only thing that's changed on here.
Any other questions,
Yeah.
comments?
Are there any other amendments, Dave, that we can expect to see?
You will see some as we progress through the year, some of the, probably in different areas as far as the special revenue funds, federal funds, depending on our allocation and how those might change. But there won't be any to the taxes of the general fund or the debt service funds.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approve the continuation of our membership with the Ohio School Board
Mr.
Association.
Singer,
Did I miss one?
We've got to do number 7 first.
Oh.
7-1. It's not a resolution, but.
Oh, the insurance and fringe benefits?
Yes, if you would like to read that, and
Okay.
then we can explain what we need to do there.
Okay, we have ORC code 3313-202, insurance and fringe benefits. Any elected or appointed member of the Board of Education of a school district and the dependent children and the spouse of the member may be covered at the option of the member under any health care plan authorized under section 9.90 of the Ohio Revised Code. The member shall pay all premiums for that coverage. The member's exercise of an option to be covered under the section shall be in writing, announced at a regular public meeting of the Board of Education, and recorded as a public record in the minutes of the board. Amended by the 129th General Assembly, file number 39, SB 171, effective 6/30/2011.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask the board members if they would like to participate in the school district's insurance, or whether they would choose to decline that. So I'll start with Ms. Bowen.
I'll decline.
Mr. Singer?
Decline.
Mr. Oper?
Ditto.
Mr. Slattery?
No, thank you.
And Mrs. Barcheck?
Decline.
Thank you.
That's all we need?
That's it.
Okay, good. Okay, be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approve the continuation of our membership with Ohio School Board Association, also known as OSBA, for the calendar year 2020 in the amount of $5,891 and subscriptions to the following: briefcase subscription, electronic copy free, school management news electronic copy, $150 per year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes. Do we have any correspondence related to action information?
I don't have any, Mrs. Barcheck.
Any other business?
You know, I was just gonna say, I was remiss in before not thanking, you know, many of the staff members and community have already volunteered for the SOS dinner. I know that there's been a lot of folks who have done that, and who have provided, you know, raffle baskets, because I know there's plenty of that has been offered already. So, tickets, I have tickets if anybody's interested. I have some with me tonight, but certainly those are available both with us. You know, the other administrators probably have theirs, but also at the door. So, thanks for all, and hopefully we can have a nice event on Saturday night.
I forgot to say in my comments, I wanted to mention that ads for the yearbook can be purchased up until February 14th, and those need to be turned into Mrs. Bader, the yearbook advisor. You could drop them off at the high school and make all checks payable to the Brooklyn City Schools. There is a form, so I meant to say that during my comments. Any other business?
I forgot to list my phone number, 216-906-2577. It's my personal cell. If you need to reach out to me, leave me a voicemail. If I can't answer, I will get back to you.
Any other business? Announcement of the next regular board meeting is set for Wednesday, January 29th, 2020, in the Treasurer's Conference Room located at the Board of Education offices, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, at 6 p.m. Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education enters into executive session for the purpose of appointment, employment, or compensation of an employee or public official pursuant to RC 121.22G. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
After we come out of executive session, we will not be conducting any business. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Ms. Bowen?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Slattery?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
7:35.